Here's a moment I've seen happen in airports more than a few times. Someone walks up to the security checkpoint feeling completely ready, everything organized for the trip they've been looking forward to. Their bag goes through the scanner, and it stops. An agent steps over, sets it aside, and starts going through it. Out come the medications, the creams and gels packed because they need them every single day. All of it sitting out on a table, the line building behind them. And that feeling, did I do something wrong, is one of the most stressful ways a trip can begin. Here's what I want you to understand. Almost none of those people were breaking a single rule. Everything they packed was permitted. The problem wasn't what was in the bag. The problem was how it looked on the scanner. So let's go through what's happening at the checkpoint, what triggers delays, and exactly what to do so that moment never happens to you. Most travelers ask one question before they pack. Is this allowed? And if the answer is yes, they assume they're fine. But TSA's screening system isn't reading your prescription labels. It's a machine reading shapes, densities, and how objects group together inside a bag. And the moment you understand that, you stop feeling like the rules are unpredictable and start seeing exactly what to do. Every item we're covering today is legal to bring. What we're doing is making sure they don't trigger a second look, because that second look is what costs you time, your calm start, and the first good feeling of a trip going smoothly. Tip 1 is about pill organizers, and the fix here is simpler than you might think. Let's start with the one that surprises people most, the weekly pill organizer. A lot of us traveling after 60 are managing 5, 8, sometimes 10 or more daily prescriptions. For that, a pill organizer makes complete sense. But here's what the scanner sees: compartments full of small objects, none of them labeled, none of them in bottles, none of them immediately identifiable. It's not that the agent thinks you've done something wrong, it's that the machine is flagging something it can't quickly classify. I watched a woman go through this once, organized, experienced, everything sorted perfectly. But the pill organizer flagged her bag. An agent opened it, and she stood there while her personal medical routine was laid out in front of a line of strangers. Nothing was wrong, but you could see how unsettling it felt. The fix: keep your primary medications in their original prescription bottles through security. Original bottles show your name, your doctor's name, and the medication clearly, and that clarity moves you through much faster. If you need the organizer for the trip itself, pack it in your bag. I do want to clarify this. TSA does not require you to keep medications in their original bottles. There is no rule that says you must. But original bottles are the fastest way to answer the question the scanner just asked. And when you're standing at a checkpoint, fast answers matter. Tip number 2 trips up a lot of travelers: liquid medications. Most people assume the 3-1-1 rule applies to everything, but it doesn't. Prescription liquid medications are medically exempt. The rule that applies to your shampoo does not apply to your prescription cough syrup, your liquid iron supplement, or your prescription eye drops. But you have to say something before the bag goes through the scanner. That's the step people skip. They know the medication is legal, assume it'll go through fine, and then the bag comes out the other side with a flag. Before your bag goes through the scanner, let the agent know you have a liquid prescription medication and point to where it is. One sentence, that's the whole fix. For a lot of us managing medications we can't replace at a drugstore if they get confiscated. Getting this right matters more than most people realize. Medicated creams and gels. This is tip 3, and I learned this one the hard way. Medicated creams and gels, like arthritis cream, pain relief gel, or prescription skin treatments, are classified as liquids under TSA rules. That means they fall under the 3-1-1 rule unless they're prescription medications you've declared. A few years ago, after my doctor added a new medication to my routine, I started traveling with a prescription cream I hadn't needed before. The cream itself was prescription, but the label was on the box it came in, not on the tube. I packed the full-size tube, didn't think twice, and I didn't find out until I was standing on the other side of the checkpoint that it wasn't in my bag anymore. For someone managing a condition that affects how easily they can walk through a long airport, losing that medication before the trip even starts changes the whole day. The fix: either pack the travel size or make sure the prescription label is on the tube itself, not just the box. Tip 4 is about syringes and injectables, and it's not about whether they're allowed. If you use insulin or any injectable medication, this one matters a great deal. Syringes are allowed through TSA, no question. But what causes real issue is when syringes go through separately from the medication they're used with. TSA wants to see the syringe and the medication together. When they're in different pouches, it creates a question that requires a conversation. And for someone managing diabetes, that conversation in the middle of a security line with people watching adds a layer of exposure to something that's already personal enough. Keep your injectable medications and the syringes they go with in the same clearly accessible pouch. Together, they tell a clear story. One more thing if you travel internationally: a physician's letter on letterhead, listing your medication, your diagnosis, and your doctor's contact information is worth bringing, especially for countries like Japan, the UAE, or destinations in Southeast Asia, where documentation for injectables matters. It's a simple document to request, and it removes one more point of uncertainty before it becomes a problem. Tip 5, ice packs and cold storage. And this one is entirely about timing. If you travel with medications that need to stay cold, this one is entirely about timing. Gel ice packs are allowed at the checkpoint as long as they're completely frozen solid. If they're partially melted, even a little soft, they're classified as a gel, and gels have size limits. An ice pack that left your freezer fully frozen but softened during the drive to the airport can be flagged at the checkpoint. Freeze them the night before, and freeze them hard, not just cold, frozen solid. And if you're not sure they'll hold, look at insulated travel cases designed for insulin that stay stable longer without needing to be completely frozen. For those of us managing medications we can't simply replace at a pharmacy in another city, this is the kind of detail that protects the whole trip. Something I've noticed about every situation we've talked about so far: they don't happen to unprepared people. They happen to prepared people who just didn't know how the scanner sees it. The travelers who get stopped aren't careless. They're organized, they've thought ahead, they've made lists. They just didn't know the scanner sees things differently than a person does. The scanner doesn't read your preparation. It reads what it can visually classify. If this is the kind of thing you want to know before you travel, not after, I'd love for you to subscribe, because that's the whole reason this channel exists. Travel after 60 should feel easier, not harder. And the more you know going in, the more of your trip you get to actually enjoy. Here is tip 6, powders and supplements. And this one has quietly become more of an issue. Things like protein powder, electrolyte mixes, collagen supplements, and powdered vitamins. If any of these are in containers larger than about 12 ounces, they may be flagged for additional testing, sometimes a strip test, and sometimes the container gets opened. For those of us who depend on electrolytes to stay hydrated on a long travel day, or protein supplements to manage nutrition when airport food isn't reliable, losing them at the checkpoint matters more than it might for a younger traveler. It won't stop your trip, but it can feel alarming if nobody warned you it might happen. Divide powdered supplements into clearly labeled travel-size containers and put them in an easy-access pocket. The screening itself isn't the disruption, the surprise of it is, and knowing it might happen stops it from being a problem. And tip number 7, CBD for pain management. And yes, you can bring it. This one has become genuinely relevant for a lot of older travelers managing chronic pain, joint discomfort, or sleep issues. CBD in oil, cream, or capsule form is something many people over 60 have made part of their daily routine. TSA follows federal law, and hemp-derived CBD with a THC content of 0.3% or less is legal and generally permitted. But the agent at the checkpoint is looking at a label, not running a lab test. So if your CBD product is clearly labeled with the THC content visible, it typically travels without issue. If it's unlabeled or looks similar to something that isn't federally legal, it creates a question, and questions take time. Keep it in the original packaging, label showing CBD and THC content clearly, and if it's a liquid or cream, declare it or bring a travel size. This isn't a reason not to bring it. It's just a reason to make sure it's easy for whoever is looking at it to understand immediately what it is. The next tip, number 8, is about portable oxygen concentrators. And I want you to pay close attention to this one, even if it doesn't apply to you directly. Because if you're traveling with someone who relies on a portable oxygen concentrator, this affects your trip too. These devices are allowed on flights, and airlines accommodate them. That's not the issue. The issue is a battery requirement that catches people completely off guard. You must have enough battery power to cover your entire flight, plus an additional 50%. Not just enough for the flight, 50% more on top of that. The reason? Flights get delayed, routes change, and airlines need to know your equipment can handle those delays without running out mid-flight. I've spoken with people who arrived at the gate with what they believed was plenty of battery life, one fully charged pack, enough for the scheduled flight, and were told they couldn't board, not because the equipment was wrong, because the battery math didn't meet the requirement. So check the requirement for your specific airline before you pack. Bring extra batteries and the charger. Give yourself more than you think you need, because this is one situation where getting it wrong doesn't mean a delay at the checkpoint. It means missing the flight entirely. Every item we've covered today is legal, and no one going through the situations we've described was breaking a rule. What was happening was simpler than that and more fixable. The scanner sees shapes, unlabeled containers, groupings it can't immediately classify. Once you understand that, the whole approach changes. You're not asking, is this allowed? You're asking, will this be cleared? Think back to the beginning of this video, the bag pulled aside, medications on the table, that feeling of, did I do something wrong? That doesn't have to be your experience. Not because the rules have changed, because you've changed how you're approaching them. You've done the preparation, you know how the system works, and you've got this. Thank you for listening today. If this made travel feel a little less stressful, or you learned something you didn't know, share it with your friends and family. Safe travels, and I'll see you in the next video.